When the debris flow happened in '83, a big landslide came down one of the side canyons way up Ward Canyon. And it was such a big debris flow that it basically dammed up the creek. Well, when that dam finally breached, it just sent everything down through here and washed out, well, all the way down to Second West, all the way down to the freeway. It just created a mess all the way down through there. The problem with the creeks that come down into Bountiful is not so much the water that comes down, but it's the amount of rocks and logs and just crap that comes down with it. It's called the bed load. And as that comes down, when it gets down onto the flatter ground, it settles out in the channel and it just spreads out everywhere. So after that happened up here in '83, there was a decision that, we've got to do something to prevent that on as many of these creeks as we can. And we've got this one, which is Stone Creek coming out of Ward Canyon. Next one over is Barton Creek coming out of Holbrook Canyon. And then Mill Creek coming out of Mill Creek Canyon or Mueller Park. And so how are we going to keep or catch all of that debris that can come down? Well, many years prior to that, sometime in the 60s, late 50s, 60s, an engineering group had done a master road plan for all of South Davis County. And it included northwest roads that went through Bountiful, Bountiful Boulevard right here being one of them. And that was way before there was anything up here. There was nothing but a few orchards and deer up on this far up on the mountain. Well, in '83, when that flood came down through here and all that water came down Barton Creek, the realization that we needed some kind of flood prevention devices here at the mouth of the canyon made the opportunity for the road come to life. So at that point, the county had passed, I think it was an 1/8 of a cent sales tax increase. And we got together immediately and put together proposals for this dam, the dam over on Barton Creek, and concrete channels all through town, and submitted it to the county. And we were about first in line and got approved for funding for these big fills where we could prevent that from happening again.
Well, everybody had seen the damage that was done. There were, I think, 3 houses destroyed and many more damaged?
At that point, people's opinions changed. Prior to that, sometime in the '70s, Jack had gone to the city council with a proposal to line all the creeks through town with these big wide channels that had some concrete in them, and they were really pretty nice channels. But people just came apart. You're not going to put that through our backyard. You're just creating a big problem for us. These are horrible. And it got voted down. So in '83, when the need was there, the culverts underneath the roads were all too small or had actually kind of started to wash out in the bottoms. And the creek channels down through everybody's backyard were beautiful landscaping, but they certainly didn't have the capacity to hold that much water. And after that flood happened and they'd had water running in their back door and out the front door, everybody in Bountiful changed their opinion about what ought to be done about controlling the creeks through town, including concrete lining of Stone Creek and Barton Creek all the way from, well, basically 4th East all the way to the west side of town.
Now, Stone Creek in my neighborhood comes down to 900 North and then goes under the road. So
Yep.
you have a culvert there. It surfaces once you get back across Main Street, I think. That's what I've seen walking the neighborhood. What happens there, and why do you have a culvert instead of a bridge there?
Let's see. Stone Creek comes down, has a pretty big culvert at Orchard Drive. It comes down through all the backyards until it turns right at 900 North. And at that point, like I said, the problem with these creeks isn't so much the amount of water that goes down them, it's all that bed load, all those rocks and sticks and all that stuff. So as part of the design, we implemented ways to get that to settle out, all of that bed load to settle out, and it could be removed and hauled off. And at 900 North, there was a house that had been damaged and was knocked down, taken out, and a big wide open spot created that we could get equipment down in and dig all of the sediment that settled out of the creek.
That's why that debris basin, it's a smaller, of course, debris
Exactly.
basin than this, but it's the same idea.
Yeah, and there's a couple on Mill Creek also. All those rocks bouncing down the bottom of that concrete channel just wears the bottom out. And so you've got to get that out of there. Well, at that point, then it goes into a big culvert and goes clear across 900 North and into the backyards of the houses. I don't know that it goes all the way to Main Street, but then there's another big culvert at Main Street, goes down to the north side of the Viewmont football field, and then there's another one of those detention or debris basins where we can get in and scoop stuff out before it goes underground all the way down Pages Lane from 4th West all the way underneath the freeway.
Now, I've seen that stream bank full. Have you had other opportunities to test the system since the big mess?
There have been a couple of pretty good rainstorms. Actually, the year after 83, the winter of 84, there was probably more water went down the creek channels, but we didn't have the debris flows.
Right, and how deep would it have to get here? Obviously, the stream is going under the road here at some point, but you've also got another gate here right at the top.
We'll walk this way. When we did the geology on both this site and the site on Barton Creek, just south of the temple, the geotechnical engineers, along with geologists, determined that there was actually a couple of ancient fault traces that went right underneath this debris basin. And so this being just on the east side of a populated area, they didn't want a fault to slip, create a problem with the dam, then all of a sudden have another big pool of water here break and flood everybody in Bountiful out. So this debris basin, this big fill, was designed with 3 safety factors to keep that from happening. That doesn't include the 30-inch pipe that just runs through the bottom and just lets the creek run through.
That's for normal stream flow.
Yeah. And a normal spring runoff will easily get through that 30-inch diameter pipe, no problem. But if you have a debris flow and a bunch of rocks and trees come down and plug up the grate down at the bottom there, water starts building up, and if you walk right over here, you can see this steel grate down here that runs up the face of the dam. Well, that runs in a small channel, a small concrete culvert that just goes down the face of the dam. So any water that builds up in here will just eventually get into that, back down and out through the pipe in the bottom. Well, what if that gets plugged up? Water builds all the way up to the top. Then you've got a spillway here that is designed to pass what is described as the probable maximum flood, the statistically probable most amount of water that you could ever really see come out of here.
Is that what happened in '83? Was that maximum flood?
Oh, yeah, because it was created by that dam being made up by the debris flow up on the side of the hill. So it was actually a dam breach and a flood. And so that would create the probable maximum
Something
flood.
that you'd compare, if not size, but similar geologic process to the Thistle mudslide?
Exactly. Well, except that the Thistle mudslide came down slow, and this came down just in an instant. It just all washed down. It's the same thing that happened up, that created Hebgen Lake up in Montana and Idaho, in Wyoming. And Slide Lake, big slide comes down, blocks off a river, creates a lake. Well, this is just a small creek, but it created a small lake, breached that, and then that came down through. Well, if that happened again, you could catch all the debris in the basin here, all the rocks and the logs and all the trees would catch in here, and then the water, the maximum amount of water, could pass over the spillway and down the other side and out through town. And that would probably be handled in those concrete channels below.
So even if we did have another humongous rain event and a debris flow, these facilities would give us some warning, wouldn't they?
A lot of warning. Yeah, because things would start backing up in here, and it wouldn't fill up instantly, but it'd start going down this face drain, and if that started slowing down, then it would go over the spillway, and so there would be a lot of warning in the days of warning.
We have, a lot of alluvial foothill geology here, where it's here because it's eroded down from the mountains over centuries and millennia.
Yeah.
And when it gets wet, it can move.
Right where we're standing is the maximum level of Lake Bountiful. This is the Lake Bountiful level. And so from here down, the geology is different. Lots of sands, lots of gravels. From here up, it's the mountainside. Lots of clays, lots of rocks. And that kind of stuff can move pretty easily, get wet. There is another problem, though, that was determined because of those faults. If that fault shifted and it cut off that 30-inch diameter pipe that goes down through here, then you're plugged up and the face drain doesn't work, and the spillway, it may have been damaged and compromised. So right through the middle of that 120-foot tall fill, the center, 20 foot wide by 20 feet high, is nothing but a bunch of rocks about that big that go down through there. You can't see them down here. They're covered by a little bit of dirt at this end. But if that ever happened, this would pass enough water right through the center of the dam to prevent it from overtopping.
You'd lose the road maybe, but you wouldn't...
You wouldn't even fill up. It wouldn't fill up because the water, there's so much capacity to run water just down through that bunch of gravel in the middle of these dams that it wouldn't fill up.
So you're pretty confident that what happened in 1983 is not going to happen again?
No, not to the extent that it happened like that. These debris basins will catch what needs to be caught. Right at the bottom of this hill, right where the water comes out from underneath the dam, there's a 24-inch diameter, extremely high pressure gas pipeline, gas transmission line that comes all the way from Wyoming over the mountain and then north through here up to Centerville. Mountain Fuel Supply was really concerned about their pipeline being exposed and possibly damaged by future flooding. So when we built this, they were pretty glad to have us put that stilling basin, all that concrete, over the top of their gas pipeline to add another layer of protection to keep that gas pipeline from being exposed and possibly damaged by erosion and big rocks coming down. So it provides another layer of protection the people of Bountiful don't even know about. Now I know it's been, gosh, what's it been? 43 years ago. And a lot of the population of Bountiful wasn't even alive when that happened. And they look at those channels and go, oh, they are ugly. And there is no question. They are ugly.
Mm-hmm.
But they are not nearly as ugly as having that creek run in your back door and out your front door. So they may be ugly, but they do provide the protection that is needed to live on the side of a hill.